Welcome to New York's number 2 sports show. The Yankees defeat the Baltimore Orioles 2 of 3 at Yankee Stadium, and they win the rubber match as well. So, series didn't get off to a great start. Another winnable game for the Yankees that they didn't get the job done. Game 2, they win very easily. Then game 3 was only their second win of the season when trailing after 7 innings. The only other time it happened in May against the Texas Rangers, in a game that they were down by as well. I think down by 1 as well at the end of 7, ended up winning that game on a Jason Dominguez walk-off home run in the ninth. This one, Jazz Chisholm Jr. is the hero, with a really, really big 2-run double in a first and third, 1-out situation in the 8th inning, 3-0 count, and he's able to deliver. A lot to discuss on that front, though. Jazz was definitely a main topic of conversation in game 3. But hey, wasn't pretty. Yankees have struggled against the division. And Baltimore, it's been a really, really rough year for them. A lot of injuries and more still happening, literally in series as well, to key players. So you're not getting the best version of the Orioles, but the Yankees lost to Baltimore earlier in the year in Baltimore 2 of 3. So you'll take it any way you can get it. Yankees now 10 and 12 against the American League East, which is still not, I mean, it's not good, but you know, the tone of it's interesting, with these things sometimes. The tone of this episode could have been very different if the Yankees don't find their way back and come back in the 11:30 Roku start for game 3. But they are, in fact, they show some fight. Pitching's been really good by and large, especially starting pitching for the Yankees. And they get it done. So now they are 3 up on the Rays on the loss side in the AL East and 4 up on the Toronto Blue Jays. Those are the 2 main competitors at this point. I mean, the Red Sox, they're not that far off, but I mean, with them trading Rafael Devers, it's more of a Tampa Bay and Toronto thing currently within the American League East. So this was, besides game 2, it was a competitive series between these AL East rivals. So let's catch up on some transactions, and there definitely were a few. Expected was that Luke Weaver was reinstated from the 15-day injured list. A quick stay. Really, it seemed like it'd be longer than that, and he would be back. We'll talk about him, unfortunately, in a negative light, as far as, he was definitely a big part of the loss in game 1. So we'll talk about Weaver and what his role currently is. But what also happens unexpectedly before game 3 is Ryan Yarbrough is placed on the 15-day injured list with a right oblique strain. So he's going to be out of action for a bit, and that's too bad because he's been good lately. And let's just discuss that real quick here. Lefty Javian Sandridge was called up. He's been called up a few times and not used, and he's actually sent down after game 3. It was not, the game was close, so he wasn't in the mix. And the person that's going to take his spot is actually tomorrow's starter, and we'll preview a little bit more after we go through the Orioles series. But against Cincinnati, against the Reds, it'll be Alan Winans making his Yankee debut. He's done really well in AAA. The former Atlanta Brave will get the nod, but what it also means to me, unfortunately, is Marcus Stroman is probably going to take that Yarbrough spot, at least in the interim, unless Winans really does well. Right? I think there is a world, but there's a couple things in play here. Stroman, he's not all the way back. He's going to have his 3rd rehab start soon. So there's that part of it. And as well, I do think Winans, for the fact that he had really good AAA numbers, if he somehow delivered a gem, let's say, I do think that they would, at the very least, consider keeping him in the rotation. But to me, it's kind of the stars are aligned for Stroman to be back in the rotation. And then you see what happens, by the time Luis Gil returns and even Yarbrough. But that's that for now. Game 1 of this Yankee-Orioles series. Max Fried, I wouldn't say he struggled, but it wasn't one of his better outings, and yet there was still a lot of good in there. I guess the thing with Fried is it was only his 2nd start this year where he allowed more than 2 earned runs. He led 3. It looked like he was about to escape again with only allowing 2, but in his last inning of work, he did give up a run. So it goes 6 innings, 7 hits, 3 runs, no walks, and 7 strikeouts. The ERA is above 2 at 2.05. The no decision for Fried means that he still doesn't have that 10th win. So that's, I believe, 2 starts in a row where he had the ability to get number 10. Didn't happen. Should be a matter of time, though, when it does. And look, it's no cause for concern. But and look, the fact of the matter is, against the Red Sox, Fried just simply didn't get the run support. This one was, he wasn't at his total best, but yet at the same time, no walk, 7 strikeouts is obviously a pretty damn good ratio. For the Orioles, it would be on the bump, uh, Tomoyuki Sugano, who didn't do well. This was really the Orioles bullpen that delivered big time. Sugano, who was very good against the Yankees in Baltimore earlier in the year, this game, 3 2/3 innings, 7 hits, 3 runs, 3 walks, and 4 strikeouts. It was unfortunate. The Yankees seemed like they were on their way to kind of carrying over what they had done the day before in that last Angel game, but not exactly meant to be. And this was another one of those sort of frustrating losses. As far as the Yankee lineup is concerned, and again, with Stanton back, it leads to really 2 main players at least sitting out. And in this game, it was Ben Rice. And I believe that would have meant that it was trying to think back to that last game against the Angels. I believe that was then 2 in a row for Ben Rice out. And then as well, it was Cody Bellinger. And Bellinger has found his way on the bench more and more. I found too. So it was a rare Paul Goldschmidt leadoff appearance against the righty. And just to jump ahead, Paul Goldschmidt did not start games 2 and 3. So he's another one, very much so, that is more in danger of losing playing time with Stanton returning, with Rice kind of, doing what he's been doing with the bat. He kind of was cold, but Rice, I feel as if has kind of found it again. So you had that. But besides that, nothing too notable. And let's just go through it. So Baltimore gets on the board early, and it's former Yankee Gary Sanchez who actually ends up starting the first 2 games at catcher, and then ends up being an injury replacement in game 3. So Adley Rutschman was supposed to be a DH in this original starting lineup, but ends up being out. Believe it's an oblique injury that's going to keep him out through the All-Star break. So we saw a lot of Gary Sanchez, and he does get the job done at the very least in game 1. After that, there was one other thing that he did that we'll talk about in game 2 that was positive on the Sanchez front. But it appeared as if Max Fried was almost going to wiggle out of a jam, but he doesn't. Bases loaded, 2 out. Gary Sanchez 2-run single makes it 2-0 Orioles. What I found with Yankee pitching is, as good as they've been, and they've been really good, there's been first inning issues, or at the very least early in game issues, and then they're able to settle in. I give them credit for that. Where it seems like maybe they are on the verge of getting smoked, and it doesn't happen. They do need to clean up that first inning skittishness, if you will. Bottom of the first, Yankees tie it right up. And it would be Jazz Chisholm Jr. with an RBI single with the bases loaded to make it 2-1. Giancarlo Stanton would strike out, and Stanton, had some good moments, but also did strike out quite a bit in this series as well, which, we're accustomed to that with Stanton. And then Dominguez sac fly. So the Yankees sac flies continue. They've been one of the best in baseball in that department. Ties the game up at 2. Then in the third, Aaron Judge homers. His 27th home run of the season, right center field shot off of Sugano, makes it 3-2. And look, for Judge, he had a really good game here. Game 1, Judge was definitely the offensive catalyst for sure. And so the Yankees take that 3-2 lead. Then let's go to the fourth. You end up in a first and second 2-out situation where the Orioles bring on lefty Keegan Aiken to face Jazz Chisholm Jr. Jazz greets him with what appeared to potentially be an RBI single. However, Ramon Laureano makes an amazing throw and gets DJ LeMahieu out at the plate. Now, we know LeMahieu's got no speed, right? And that's very unfortunate. But give some credit to Laureano. I mean, a nice play. And on the replay, and it was challenged by the Yankees, LeMahieu might have been safe. And I think it's one of those things where if they called LeMahieu safe on the field, I think they would have stuck with that call. But doesn't go the Yankees' way, and they remain only up 3-2. Then, another missed opportunity for the Yankees. First and second, no out. Anthony Volpe beats out a double play. We'll talk a little bit more about Volpe at the end of this game. But I think there's another spot where Volpe doesn't do something. So first, but he beats it out. So first and third, one out, and then Austin Wells double play. So again, couple innings in a row, and some of it not the Yankees' fault, some of it is only up 3-2. Then you have a Colton Cowser one out single, and then a Gary Sanchez single, infield single. On a play that I thought the Jazz um, maybe could have given a better throw from third, but either way, couple on for Baltimore. Then Kobe Mayo with a game tying RBI single to make it 3-3. So there's that third run off of Fried. And his pitch count was really high, and it seemed as if Fernando Cruz was going to come in. However, Fried talks Boone into staying in the game, and he gets the final two outs of the inning. So it ends up being what is considered a quality start, which is 6+ innings or 3 runs or less, which he does here. And so it's tied at 3, though, at this point. Yankees another opportunity to maybe do something, and Jazz grounds out with first and second 2 out off of Yenier Cano in the 6th. Loaisiga with a strong 7th inning, and Jonathan Loaisiga looking really good lately, which is nice to see. Then in the 8th, Luke Weaver comes on. And a couple things. Luke Weaver, and especially after this outing, what we saw this weekend, Devin Williams got the 9th inning role right now. And for now, I'm fine with it. I don't feel good about that in the long run. I do trust Luke Weaver over Devin Williams. But look, not going to make a big deal about it, again, for the fact that Williams has been effective lately. And Weaver, in his first outing back, was not. And maybe that's just him, shaking off the rust. But it's Ramon Urias with an opposite field home run, his 5th homer of the year to make it 4-3 Baltimore. Definitely a Yankee short porch job, but hey, they all count the same. And it's 4-3. Then, he walks Gary Sanchez with 1 out, gives up a single to Ryan O'Hearn, and then after an out, they bring on Tim Hill, facing the pinch hitter Gunnar Henderson, lefty-lefty battle, which Henderson wins. Opposite field RBI single. The run goes against Weaver, and it sucks because if you think about when Weaver, got hurt originally, like he was starting to get up some runs then. So that's the thing too. There was a bit of ineffectiveness in Weaver back then, not too much. But now the ERA, where at one time it was 0, and then it was below 0.5. Now it's 1.71, which is still really good. But those numbers are not looking perfect anymore, unfortunately. So Weaver actually picks up the loss and drops to 1-2 on the season. So 5-3 Baltimore at this point. And then the Yankees in the bottom of the 8th, they go down 1-2-3. They actually go down pretty quietly. Ian Hamilton pitches a 1-2-3 ninth inning to keep it at 2. And then Felix Bautista, the closer for the Orioles, again, 1-2-3 inning, they go down. Grisham fly out, which was a nice shot to the track. Judge strikeout, Chisholm Jr. strikeout, and that's your ball game. Baltimore wins 5-3. And another one of those games this year where it felt as if the Yankees, they had it, were unable to really get that big lead, kept Baltimore in it, and then the Orioles won the game. But luckily from there, the Yankees improve. And it ends up in a situation where we can feel, solid enough about the series. So game 2, the story is Clarke Schmidt. Clarke Schmidt goes 7 no-hit innings. Yes, 7 no innings for Clarke Schmidt. Wins to improve to 4-3. 7 innings, no hits, no runs, 2 walks, and 5 strikeouts. ERA is down to 2.84. The reason why he didn't go any further was because he was at 103 pitches, which is his career high. I agree with the Boone decision. Does it suck to not see potential history? Yes, it does. Would have loved to have seen that possibility. And if they brought him up the 8th as a fan, yeah, it would have been fun to watch. But I think, in the long run, this was the smart move to take him out of the game. But Schmidt now has a 25 1/3 scoreless inning streak going. He has been legit. And really, ever since, the beginning of May, he's been one of the best pitchers in the American League. For Baltimore, it was Zach Eflin who got really, really tattooed. The loss drops his record to 6-4. It's kind of amazing that he was 6-3 going into this. 3 innings, 10 hits, 6 runs, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts, 3 homers allowed. It looked like batting practice out there. I'm not going to lie. For the Yankees, as far as who was out, Paul Goldschmidt, who would sit out. He would come off the bench in game 3, but he would sit games 2 and 3. Something to keep in mind. And then the other person that would be out was, let's see here. Austin Wells was out. JC Estrada got the start and actually was one of the stars of this game. But as well, for the Yanks, it was Giancarlo Stanton, Right. So no Goldschmidt, no Stanton, no LeMahieu, no Wells. So some of the more, regular starters not in the lineup. Um, and the Yankees jump out to the lead, which we have not seen much lately when you think about it at all. And in fact, this actually probably broke I could maybe be missing one game in the mix here, but I don't think I am. This actually probably broke a streak as far as the Yankees taking the lead to start the game. Trent Grisham hits his 15th homer of the season to give the Yankees a 1-0 lead. Then in the bottom of the second, they're at it again. JC Escarra, his second homer of the year, makes it 2-0. And then Ben Rice, his 13th of the year, makes it 3-0 Yankees. Bottom of the third, and look, like Jordan Westberg, he gets hurt in this game, stealing second. He's one of the better players. The injuries are piling up for this Baltimore Orioles team. It's pretty crazy. And he would leave the game. So in the third, a sac fly by JC Escarra makes it 4-0. And then a 2-run single by Oswald Peraza makes it 6-0. What I'll also say is I didn't mention it in the last episode. Last game. Anthony Volpe breaks what I believe was an 0 for 25 streak with a very fortunate dribbler down the third base line. It breaks the schneid. He's been really bad lately. He actually did not start game 3, which was good. Look, Oswald Peraza is not taking his job, but Volpe needs off days, and he got one, and he ends up actually doing pretty well in game 2. We'll talk about that more. But anyway, Ascara sac fly, Peraza 2-run single makes it 6-0 Yanks. And Clarke Schmidt, who really struggled in the first inning. He did. He threw 27 pitches. From there, he was excellent. Obviously not giving up a hit. Anthony Volpe homers in the 5th, his 9th homer of the year. It was a Yankee Stadium type home run, but hey, he's been so bad lately that maybe somehow confidence increases. Makes it 7-0 Yanks. And then Ben Rice with an RBI triple. So a homer and a triple on the day for Rice. Makes it 8-0. And then in the bottom of the 6th, Yankees add on more. JC Escarra with an RBI single. So 3 RBIs for Escarra. I like what I've seen from him. Even though he doesn't play much, this guy can hit. He really can. Hasn't been great as far as caught stealings are concerned. I think it's 18 for 18 against him. But still, he's done a nice job in the backup role and might lose playing time with Ben Rice catching more. Ben Rice actually caught 1 inning in the 9th. But let's move forward. Schmidt finishes 7 innings, and you're thinking maybe there's a chance he starts the 8th, but he doesn't. And JT Brubaker makes his Yankee debut. So think about this, coming in a weird spot. It's a 9-0 lopsided score, but he's coming into a no-hit game in the 8th inning. And Gary Sanchez is the one that breaks up the no-hitter, but not without some controversy. It looked clearly like Gary Sanchez went around swinging, but the first base ump said he didn't go. I believe it was the next pitch. Right down the middle, Sanchez singles. That's the one hit of the game for Baltimore, and one that really probably shouldn't have been. But otherwise, Brubaker looked pretty good. And he'll be more of a long man. He went 2 innings, gave up a hit, no runs, 1 walk, 1 strikeout. Again, don't expect him to be in any big spots, but expect him to maybe be a guy that, is able to kind of save the bullpen every now and then when the score is lopsided. So we're all tied up at 1, and now we go to the rubber match, which was at 11:30 a.m. start. And that's the one time that'll be the case for the Yankees this year. With the Roku deal, the Sunday leadoff game was the Orioles and the Yankees, as it was last year being in Baltimore. And that was a bad ending. That was the one where Volpe and Verdugo make those really bad defensive blunders with Clay Holmes on the mound and they lost. But that was last year. Here, Will Warren does a nice job. Really struggled in the first inning. As I've said, it's been a bit of a problem. But Warren goes 6 1/3 innings, 6 hits, 2 runs, 2 walks, and 6 strikeouts. Just really getting the job done. Besides that Dodgers start, the guy really has been one of the best pitchers in baseball. It certainly feels that way. And I know the numbers overall look bad. 4.6 is ERA. That's not good. But it's a combination of early struggles and that one just really, really bad game against the Dodgers. For the Orioles, a very nice start for Dean Kramer, who's had the Yankees number for a long time now, it feels like, especially at Yankee Stadium. 5 2/3 innings, 5 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts. He deserved the better fate than a no decision. Let's put it that way. For the Yanks, Paul Goldschmidt would start on the bench again. And The other guy that was out was Jason Dominguez. Again, I like to kind of keep track of who's sitting out more than others, but it is kind of been a mix. Really has been. Um, but you'd have to think that, a Dominguez has probably been, one of the biggest odd man outs. But either way, the Orioles jump out to a 2-0 lead. It really could have honestly been worse than it was. There was a pickoff play that worked for the Yanks that kind of limited some damage, but an RBI single by Ryan O'Hearn and a 2-out RBI double by Colton Cowser makes it 2-0 Orioles. But luckily that was all it was. And then in the bottom of the second, uh, a 2-out rally. Chisholm Jr. with a double and DJ LeMahieu with an RBI single on a play where there was a collision at the plate between Jazz and the catcher Maverick Handley, which led to Handley having to leave the game probably for a concussion protocol. It looked a little bit woozy. And so Gary Sanchez was back in it after he played the first two games. But nothing malicious here. And it didn't really happen at the plate exactly either. It was kind of it wasn't a great throw by Cowser, and the collision just kind of happens early, really incidental. And it ends up popping the ball out of the mitt of Handley, and it makes it 2-1. And in the middle of that, Jazz's cleats came off. One of them came off before the collision, and one of them after. Just one of the stranger overall plays you'll see. And it's 2-1 at that point, Baltimore. Then Will Warren really starts to settle in. Dean Kramer as well. Let's go to the bottom of the sixth with Kramer still in. Leadoff walk Judge, double by Ben Rice. So they're set up a second and third, no out. Then Cody Bellinger hits a fly ball to right field. It's relatively deep enough to presumably get Judge, and Carlson makes the sliding catch. But terrible base running by Judge as he was off third base. You need to be on third in that situation. You gain nothing by being off the bag. And so he retreats and there's no play there. This was not Luis Rojas' fault. It was Judge. Luckily, the Yankees win, so I'm not going to make a huge deal about this, but not good base running there. And then what happens from there? Stanton strikes out. They bring in the lefty Aiken, who gets Chisholm Jr. to fly out. So a second and third no-out opportunity squandered for the Yanks. Then in the seventh, a leadoff double against Warren and then a strikeout to Sanchez the Yankees bring on Tim Hill. He gets the final 2 outs of that inning. Yankees in the bottom of the seventh get a little bit of traffic off of Sir Anthony Dominguez, but ultimately Aaron Judge strikes out with a couple of runners on and 2 out. Not a good at bat by Judge either. So look, Judge, who was just playing out of this world for the longest time, it's been a struggle for him, even though he's mixed in some really good games. And obviously the overall numbers are just video game stuff, but still Judge to me, like it's not quite where it was. That's all. So now we go to the eighth. And by the way, Jason Dominguez had pinch hit for Oswald Peraza. So Anthony Volpe comes in at short. And again, Peraza gets the rare start at shortstop because, Volpe's usually getting that. Eighth inning, Tim Hill coming back out there, a couple of walks to the lefties, Henderson and O'Hearn. So not great. You find that with these Yankees relievers, they'll do well initially, and sometimes they get pushed a little bit too far and they struggle. But Fernando Cruz is the unsung hero of this game. He strikes out Laureano, Cowser, and Mullins with first and second no out, keeping the game a 1-run game. Great job by Cruz, who hasn't been all that great lately in terms of walks and, just a little bit of inconsistency. Bottom of the eighth comes around, and this is the big inning by the Yankees, and it's off of Brian Baker, who's a good reliever. But for the Yankees to get to Baker before the possibility of Felix Bautista was huge, and Ben Rice starts that with a single. Then Cody Bellinger grounds out to first, Rice over to second. It's actually a good at-bat by Bellinger. Worked the count, and luckily, because O'Hearn could have thrown to second, he doesn't. And so now it's runner on second, 1 out. Then Giancarlo Stanton, who had struck out 3 times previous to that at-bat, but he comes through late in games. He is clutch, and he drills a single, hit too hard for Rice to score, makes it first and third, 1 out, and the Yankees pinch run Paul Goldschmidt for Giancarlo Stanton. Think about that. Paul Goldschmidt pinch running, a 37, 38-year-old guy who, is very likely to make the Hall of Fame. Not much of a speed guy at this point of his career. He used to steal bases back in the day. He did. But he's in there, and it actually comes in handy. Jazz Chisholm Jr., first and third, 1 out, 3-0 count. And I'm thinking, hey, with LeMahieu on deck, if this is something you like, and I'm not always a big fan of this, take a swing. And sure enough, he does. It is a 2-run double for Jazz, scores Rice, and Goldschmidt with a close play at the plate beats the tag by Gary Sanchez. Nice move by Boone, having Goldschmidt pinch run for Stanton. And the Yankees take a 3-2 lead. Clutch hit by Jazz, who overall, while there has been some struggles here and there, since he's come back from the injury, he has done a very nice job. Much, much better than what he was before he got hurt. And on that play, because they threw home, Jazz goes to third. So now it's runner on third, 1 out. LeMahieu doesn't exactly get the job done. He pounds a ground ball to the left side. And I believe it's Gunnar Henderson who throws home, and Jazz ends up being safe on a miscatch error by Gary Sanchez. So no RBI for LeMahieu. This is the Gary Sanchez we know and love and remember. It's really sad, honestly, what his career has become. He's still in the league. He's still got that power threat potential. But my God, I mean, defensively, it's bad. He's an all-or-nothing hitter. It's just, I mean, this guy looked like he was going to be really one of the best players in the game. And it's a play that should have been made. And ultimately, it's a big extra run, for Devin Williams to get that extra cushion. Makes it 4-2 Yanks. So we go to the ninth. Devin Williams coming out for the save, and he gets the job done. There was a 2-out single by Jackson Holliday, but he gets the save, his 10th save of the season. And he's been better lately. Fernando Cruz gets the win, improves to 2-3. And that's a deserved win for him. And now he will take on the Cincinnati Reds, his former team. But the Yankees take 2 of 3 from the Orioles to improve to 45-32. Let's preview the pitching matchups in Cincinnati. A couple of interesting ones, actually, for different reasons. Game 1, Alan Winans, the righty making his Yankee debut. Could it end up just being one start for the Yankees and back to AAA for the rest of the season? Possibly. It could be, but there is an opportunity here. With Yarbrough going on the IL, there's a chance that if he does well, and at Cincinnati, it's not an easy pitcher's park. Maybe he can stay in there. He'll take on lefty Nick Lodolo, who has not fared that well at home compared to on the road. He hasn't been great lately, but overall the numbers are pretty solid. Pretty good pitcher for the Reds. Won't be easy for the Yankees. That's your game 1 start. Game 2, also some intrigue. So Carlos Rodon looking to bounce back. He hasn't been, I bounce back is maybe not the right word, because he did get the win against the Angels, but I feel like he hasn't been extra sharp lately. He's been giving up some home runs, but still overall hasn't been like he's imploded completely. He will take on rookie Chase Burns. Now, MLB.com still has Nick Martinez listed as the starter. I believe it's supposed to be Chase Burns, who's one of the top Reds prospects. I think he can throw upwards of close to 100 miles an hour. So, this will be interesting. And I think if you're a Cincinnati fan, you're excited that the Yankees coming to town, and, you got your young prospect making his debut. So that's game 2. And then game 3 will be Max Fried against Brady Singer. And the Yankees have seen Brady Singer a bit in his Kansas City days. I believe that was Singer for Jonathan India. What was the trade there? But, he actually, unlike Lodolo, he's actually better at home, Singer, that is. And Max Fried, you got to think, is used to facing Cincinnati from his National League days with the Braves. So we'll see. The Reds, very weirdly, are the one team in baseball that has not been swept this season, and yet the record's only 40-38. There's a decent team, decent at home, like a team that's capable of beating good teams. In fact, last year they swept the Yankees at Yankee Stadium. That might have been the one time the Yankees were swept at the stadium last year, or I guess that's not true, because they did lose that 2-game set to the Mets, maybe in at least a 3-game set. It's one of the few that I remember, and it was in the middle of the season. So, however, the Yankees, a couple years back in Cincinnati in 2023, I believe they swept Cincinnati then. So, maybe they can continue that trend, but it should be an interesting series. You got Ellie De La Cruz on the Red side, and the Yankees will look to, win a series. They get it done against Baltimore. It's a quick 3-game road trip. They'll be back home to take on the Athletics after this, but this will be a bit of a challenge. But, when you got Rodon and Fried on the mound for games 2 and 3, you do like your chances to, stay competitive in the series and hope that Alan Winans can at least keep the Yankees in the game in game 1. So, Jazz Chisholm Jr., a really, really clutch A 2-run double to help give the Yankees not only the win in Game 3, but the series win. They take 2 of 3 for the Baltimore Orioles, and now they will head to Cincinnati to take on the Reds.